Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our fifth episode of the Hyber Insight series. We're really excited to have us all join the call. And today we are going to be looking at a very basic but yet highly important topic: how to uncover real customer problems, not just symptoms. We're going to let our audience just glide into the call as we're seeing the meeting room, as we transfer people from the meeting room into the call. My name is Charles OJ, CEO here at Hyber. We're deeply excited to have us all join the call as we discuss about this very, very important and foundational topic. With me is no stranger, Mr. Adeyinka Aderombi, the Chief Information Officer of Rex Insurance in Nigeria. We had a fantastic conversation about systems mindset in April during our webinar, our Insight Series session in April, and it was really very, very insightful. And I decided to welcome him back to this session, to this episode. April was really, really good talking with Sorunfe from Microsoft. Adeyinka, welcome how are you doing today?
Very well, Trust, and thanks for having me again. I think we had such a nice time with the last time I was here with Showroom Fair. I'm hoping we had such a nice time again today, but thanks for having me again.
Wonderful, wonderful. In short, I would even, like to recap play a sound bite from our April session. And this sound bite is really, really interesting.
The problem is not the outcome. What's blocking your outcome is the problem. So you can go to a session and say, we want to increase profit by 50%. Yeah, but that's not really your problem. The real problem you want to solve is why are we not able to do it? So when problems are not being defined, people solve what is in their head. And solving wrong problem is common every day.
That was a very interesting soundbite. We got a lot of response on our channels as it relates to that comment you made, Adeyinka. Do you want to elaborate some more on that comment?
Yeah, so I think we have some offline conversation about that also between you and me. I think after the meeting, the challenge is problems don't often look like they behave. Oftentimes, people look at the symptoms of the problem and react to the symptoms rather than dig above the symptoms to get to the root cause of the problem. And that's why we started having that conversation offline, because it is easy to react to the symptoms of problems rather than do that exercise that requires some thinking, some questioning, some challenging the status quo to really get to the bottom of why problems do exist. And it is often easier to react to problems than to really solve problems. And especially in multifaceted, multidimensional problems, you see this a lot. Simple problems, often not the problem, but most enterprise problems are often multidimensional. I've seen people try to use technology to solve a people problem. I've seen people try to use technology to solve a learning problem. And I've been working in digital innovation for some time. I face this kind of challenges where people want to just throw technology to solve different problems.
Yeah, you're totally right. You're totally correct. And from my own experience, even sometimes I make that mistake. We are in a hurry to start developing solutions, and we assume what problems should be from our own lens and from our own perspective. And that is a big disconnect. And that's why we really thought it important to double down into this topic of problem uncovering. And I think it's a good place to start by talking about why it's very, very important. And maybe we can even explore some of your own personal experiences, Adeyinka, as an innovator. And one of the interesting experiences you've had, let's look at the first case, which is an e-commerce company. Do you want to talk about your experience here as it relates to looking at the different layers of problems and why it's important?
Thank you, Charles. And this experience was quite fitting for what we are discussing. So I've been privileged to work in an e-commerce company, and if you're actually aware, e-commerce have these end of year sales called Black Friday. Historically, up to like 7 years ago, now about 9 years ago, Black Friday, up to like 9 years ago, Black Friday was a 2-day event, a Friday, a Thursday, Friday kind of something like a 48-hour event. Though now it's more like 2 weeks of shopping. So when I joined, they've had one before, and everybody said, oh, the reason why we didn't have a successful Black Friday was because the website, the trading website, the e-commerce website went down. So effort was made to actually scale up the website, test it, simulate the traffic for it, and the perception was we were ready for it. Now, that problem experience-wise now look very simplistic. Nobody asks, how did we get here in the first instance? Is there a way we are working that brought us here? So the problem wasn't defined. We simplified having a successful Black Friday problem to just mean having a website that can handle volume. And that was solving the symptoms of the problem that we saw. Oh, the website went down. And this is not unusual because in high pressure, high speed innovation environment, if you are not careful, you just solve the problem that is in front of you. And this is a very innovative company, one of the most innovative companies I've worked in, very innovative. They came up with a lot of great solutions. So they did not dimension that problem very well. And there was a secondary problem. So we had the second one, and the website held up. But unfortunately, nothing else held up. We had issues in the warehouse. We had issues in logistics. We didn't have enough delivery guys. We didn't have enough trucks. We didn't have enough pickers. The application used in the warehouse went down. So both from a resourcing and a solutioning and a technology standpoint, everything just went down. Which means the real problem is the business is not dimensioned for such the kind of surge that will happen during a Black Friday sale. That's a real problem. To solve that is not just a technology problem. It's a mixture of process, people, and technology. Because, for example, your drivers are human beings. You have to get enough drivers, create a framework to be able to scale up your drivers, your pickers, against surges. And those are processes. So you need the people, you need the process. Then you can also, is your technology scalable? Which shifted our focus from that first occurrence. On the second occurrence, where the dimension, you can say, this business currently is not dimensioned to handle surges. How do we move from not being able to handle surge to being able to handle surge? And that changed the way we look at it, because that now make us to dimension that problem holistically, not just solve the symptoms. And we started looking, okay, can we build, the first thing we had to ask, can we model the traffic? Oh, we can model the traffic. So we model the traffic. And after we model the traffic, for this kind of surge, if surge reach this level, we need some number of pickers in, let's say, Zamfara State, which is a very far off state. We need this number in Lagos, this number in Port Harcourt, in Rivers. And that changed the way the whole framework works. So we have a framework for modeling it because we now dimension the traffic right, and we're able to make it work. But in the first scenario where we didn't dimension right, the business lost a lot of money, a couple of millions of dollars to be sincere, because there's a lot of goods lost because we couldn't track the shipment. We didn't have enough people canceled orders. So over quite a couple of millions of dollars were lost.
Wow. And this is a very interesting classic example, looking at a big company of what can happen when we don't really clarify or uncover the real problem that we need to solve. And we can see the impact here. Millions of dollars kind of like down the drain. Let's talk about another use case, but this time let's even look at a smaller company, and in this case, an energy startup. Tell us about your experience here in this second use case as relates to problem identification.
Thank you, Charles. As you know, both yourself and myself work in the technology innovation space, and part of that include engaging startups from an innovation standpoint, consulting standpoint, mentoring standpoint, and this is something we do quite regularly. One of startup I come in contact with is one that is trying to solve gas problem and replace gas with a biogas. So the normal cooking gas, what you call is in methane now.
Mm-hmm.
The plan is to replace it with biogas. You get biogas from agricultural waste, dungs of animals, rotten vegetables. You put it in a container, add some enzymes, and it'll provide you with a similar kind of gas, methane gas, to the one you use in your houses. And very lovely idea. It's a cyclic economic kind of business. We are reducing waste and increasing value. The output of biogas gives you the gas and a form of biofertilizer. So the enzyme works on it, create the gas which you can use to cook, and the residue is the fertilizer which you can use to increase yield on your farm. Great idea, because it's a win-win. Instead of this thing wasting away, you are creating value. But it looks like a good business idea. There's market for gas. There is market for agri waste. You can create the synergy and make it work. But the real problem is we not ask people that use gas enough, what's their biggest problem with gas? They are not that interested whether you are giving them a biogas or a petroleum-based methane gas. Their biggest problem with gas was distribution and cost. Now, this solution there isn't much cost differential, but you don't have a supply chain behind it to distribute it. And that means it is not a scalable solution. It might be cheaper, but if it's not distributable, so it's that kind of English, it will not work, because the real problem for that is the supply chain. You need to take the gas from where you produce it to the people that will use it. The only other way to go around it would have been to change the business model and now start selling people the kit. And as you know, people are too lazy to come and feed the kit, except they live in a farm. And most of the people that use gas in Nigeria live in the urban area. So this is a problem misalignment. The problem looks good on paper, but when you analyze it to the market realities, it neither have the infrastructure to make it work, nor does it have the will of the users to redirect the business model. So the real problem to solve is, can you distribute gas faster and cheaper and more efficiently? And by the way, I know another startup that is now solving that real problem now. Can I get gas to you faster? Can you order your gas online? It gets you in 10, 15 minutes, and it's good quality gas, is full, the weight is correct. You have some price differential because of margins on transport. But the energy one did not dimension that problem to the Nigerian environment properly.
And then it eventually, the startup eventually shut down due to not really seeing the real problem, and eventually having the customers. And I'm sure we've gone.
So remember that like we're taught in business school, there are the four criteria for a successful startup. You need a product that is desirable, which is a D. You need a product that is viable, Can it be done? You need a product that is feasible. Will it make financial sense? And you need a product that is scalable. Now, 80% of startups, in my experience, in defining the problem they solve, skip over the desirable part.
Yeah.
They just jump into, is it viable? Is it feasible? And can I scale it? Now, the first question you need to check is, what does the customer really desire? If this was country where they are more into things like green energy, biodiversity, no problem. But this is Africa. We are not at that level of evolution yet.
Exactly. And it's interesting you mentioned the word skipping, and we'll talk a little bit about it with a framework that Professor Steve Bland has mentioned over and over again. And one of his comments is really about companies don't necessarily fail because they lack the products. A lot of times the products are from a distance, and even when you look at it, they're really exciting products, great concepts, but they fail because they lack customers and, like you said, a profitable business model. And you mentioned something about the solution being desirable. It can only be desirable if it's meeting a specific need or solving a specific problem of the customer. So a lot of times, like you said, we bypass this very, very first phase of searching, which is this a problem? Are we actually solving a specific problem? And it's the first step of customer development, where we look at discovery and then we move to validation, where you then say, okay, we've been able to understand the problem, it exists. Is our solution the right solution? And if it's the right solution, we can then move on to the next phase. Can we sell this solution? And if we can sell the solution, can we repeat the selling process in a way that eventually we start building resources around the customer and we start scaling the business? So skipping this part of is this a problem is a major mistake that many innovators make. And the problem definition and verification stage, which is stage number one, is really the foundation for setting things up for success. And I would like us to talk more. I'd like us to talk more about this from your own experience. And coming back to what you said in the South Bite, where people, where a lot of us, when problems are not really defined, we really stick to what is in our head. We see things, we see problems the way we want to see them, and this is a very, very common scenario that many innovators face today. But our audience might ask, so what tools do we have that can really help us solve or help us uncover problems really deeply? And there's so many tools, but I wanted us to take your favorite tool, like we discussed. We want to take your favorite tool, and from my understanding, one of the best tools you use is the 5 why. And this framework, we've put it up here in the slide in a very simple way, where, for example, if someone has a problem, they ran through a red light, and you ask, so why did you run through the red light? The person says, oh, I was late for work. And you then ask again, so why were you late for work? So I woke up late. Okay, why did you wake up late? Oh, the alarm didn't work. Oh, why did the alarm work? My battery was exhausted. Oh, why was your battery exhausted? I forgot to check the battery. So the person forgetting to check the battery triggered a lot of other things. Then eventually, this person ran late. I want to, from your, can you speak to this model, as basic and as simple as it sounds? From your experience, what does this model mean to you?
So Thank you, Charles, by the way. Why I really love this model is it helps me to cut through the chase. Because oftentimes, if you work in enterprise or startup, there's what we call the floss. There's where people talk and they put so much technicalities, dashboard, data, slides, way of working over the real issues. And if you are not careful, they've already dimensioned the problem and they just want to tell you this is the problem, go solve it. And that is not, I've worked across a couple of industries, and in all the industries I've worked, this is not strange to me. So let's give you a good example. If we have asked ourselves in that first scenario, why did the website went down? Oh, the answer was it did not have enough resources to hold up. Why did it have enough resources? We will even get to 5. Oh, none of the platform have enough resources. And that will have triggered us to say, why didn't none of the platform have enough resources to manage such?
Yes.
Oh, we have not planned for such scenarios. And that's our real problem. We haven't planned for such scenarios. But most people stop at the first why. Why did the website went down? Oh, we didn't have enough resources. That's too simplistic. So why I love this framework is it makes you challenge the status quo. It makes you challenge the preconceived opinions about what the problem is, where it's coming from, and how we may solve it. And this is very important because if you don't go through this kind of exercise, you solve a lot of problems. So, for example, I love to watch historical war movies. And I try to find out why did one person lose a battle and why did one person lose it. Before I used to think rather that it's the strategy of our generals. And the more I look into those analyses that they give me, it's more of resourcing and supply chain management. If the two factors have similar battles, who can get the soldiers to the right place on time, who can get the machinery on time, who can supply the battlefield on time. I was shocked. I was waiting for some strategic value. Yeah, the strategic value is there, but if you're out resource, out maneuver, out move, out supply, you are probably going to win. And that didn't look at me because historically, when you look at battles, they always tell you, oh, we had this superior general that did something. Yeah, you can win that for a battle, but for a war, it's a series of battles. So it will not work like that. And that is the way businesses are. So if you don't do the deep down, you probably just react, spend money, spend time, and the team will still lose in the end.
Yes. Yes. And you know, this 5 why framework is so beautiful and so practical. Because even outside of product development or solution development, even in real life situations in the office or in the company, and problems or things come at us, we need to have that curiosity to ask the question, why? Why is this happening? A lot of times there's just so much noise around things, and we don't always have that discipline to pause and reflect and ask ourselves why and really go deeper. So this 5 why framework is really a useful tool that we can all use to really get to the root cause of issues and matters. All right. So in using, from your experience, I think in using this framework, what are some of the top tips you have for our audience in terms of when they should use it and how best they can use this framework?
Thank you, Charles. And I like the slide you just put up. The 5 why is very useful when you're trying to solve an operational problem. Because in operational problem, people have a tendency to just focus on the top level symptoms, which give them their top level solution. And in very large organization with very complicated and complex supply chain operational framework and manuals, they are hidden causes of this kind of problem. They are hidden root causes, which oftentimes does not show up at the top. So when you have an operational problem, it's a very good use case for the 5 why framework. I've used it in operations a lot, either in operational innovating or operational support of an organization, and it's been very, very effective. Number 2 is we all have to be careful of earth thinking, where all of us are going the same direction, thinking the same thing, and we're not asking the right question. What the 5 why does is it helps you to challenge the status quo. So anytime you perceive that there's a earth-based thinking here, or the second one for that would be an Igbo-based thinking, which is the highest paid personality in the room. There are companies that when you enter there, is what the boss says. Nobody asks the right question. Got me into trouble a couple of times, I know, but it's more fun though. But really, it's good you challenge and ask, sorry, why are we doing this? And they give you the first answer, but we have this, why are we doing this? And over time, everybody start thinking, oh, we've never asked why. So you help us to not just think in one direction, we broaden our horizon and we challenge the status quo to understand what is happening. Lastly, this work best when you have diverse people in the room.
Yes.
It's a lot of probabilities. The more diversity you have, the more you de-risk that process. If everybody in the room have the same understanding, at times doing the 5 why process, a framework is even useless because they have the same background, they are thinking the same way. So you want to solve a problem that, let's say, is an IT-based problem, bring the business, bring the operations guys, bring the IT guys, bring the sales guys. When you ask this question, it gives you different perspectives and you're likely to get to the root cause of problem, rather than you just lock up the IT guys in the room and they are the one creating all the solution from their head. Their paradigm and their perspective is IT-based, is singular. They might not do justice to the framework.
Absolutely. And this is especially for leaders, when they are able to bring diverse people to the room, they need to listen to them as well. And as innovators, we need to also have that open-mindedness. And I really like what you said about number 2, third thinking, where we need to put aside our own assumptions first. We need to set them aside for a minute and really look at what other perspectives are in the room and other opinions or assumptions, and evaluate everything. It's really, really useful, and it really helps for divergent thinking. And we've experienced this even here in Hyber, working with different types of projects. This is one of them, which is a supply chain project we worked on. And I remember going through this project, we didn't even start building the technology at all. It was really more about how do things work today and why do they work that way? Why does this specific stakeholder, whether a waste generator, need this in a specific way? What exactly is their frustration? What is their pain points? Really looking and understanding how things actually work, where the pains are, and then building a solution around this. And it was really, really very, very interesting as we went along this process. The second tool that I know you like is the value proposition canvas, which is slightly different from the why. It's very different from the why. And I think even both can be used in a combined, integrated manner. For the value proposition canvas, it's really 2 aspects. So one aspect is on the right hand, where we talk about the customer profile. And here we are trying to understand the day-to-day activities, what we call jobs, the day-to-day function or activity or events of the customer. And as they do these things, what pains are they experiencing? What gains are they experiencing? And once we understand that, we then begin to map that to new or existing products and services that can create gain for them or relieve the pains that the customer might be experiencing. And even here on the customer profile side, one can always, as we identify the pains, we can always ask why. Why do you feel this way? Why do you experience what you are experiencing? Why is it important? We can go a lot deeper, but I would love to get your thoughts on why you really like this framework and how you use it in your own day-to-day work, Adeyinka.
Thank you, Charles. So when you are trying to solve a problem that you don't know much about, and this speaks to the innovation kind of problem, you have an idea in your head, you think it will work. Before you make a lot of assumptions, I will always prefer you go through this value proposition canvas exercise. One other tool we can add to it is the empathy map, so that we know how the customer is actually feeling. But what this tool does for you is it wants to drive you to challenge, first of all, your understanding of the customer. What does the customer want? What are the things that is paining him in that what he wants to do? That because the job speaks to what the customer wants to achieve. The gains means what are the output? What does it benefit from it? And the pain means in doing it, what are the pain points that he has? Because if you don't do this, you may assume that customer has problem. Yeah, the intention of the customer is the same. Let's take a use case. Let's take a use case. I want to park in Lagos Island. For those people that are joining us from other countries, Lagos Island is a very strong commercial part of Lagos, and getting a parking space is difficult. It's really difficult at times. You could drive 30 minutes to just get a safe place to park. So what is my gain there? Lagos Island has the biggest deals. Banking is there, commerce is there, the largest SME commerce are there, the biggest market in Nigeria is around there. So I want to do my commerce. There's a lot of business there. What is the pain? I waste time, I waste fuel, I waste money, I lose opportunity because it's painful. Now, when you go to the other side, now by asking me that question, you already understand where my pain points are. Now I could tell you, oh, parking is actually not my problem. The real problem I have is the time it takes me to work when I park, because I park far away from the market, from the business district. Now, the pain is time between parking. So the problem to solve is to get a shuttle lane. But if I assume that the problem is always parking, I go build a parking app with a parking framework. This removes the assumption on what the customer needs. It's actually a tool of customer discovery with empathy maps. It's a way to make sure you are discovering the customer right. And a lot of times when I use this framework conversationally with a lot of startups, they cannot answer the question. They just have a product that is looking for a customer profile. And that is the recipe for a product that will not be successful, because there's another framework that you're supposed to use on this. If Charles will give you a few minutes, I want to explain that additional framework.
Okay, please go on.
So if you pick this customer profile and you have add the jobs, which is what the customer wants to do, the benefit they will get from it, and what pain they are going through to get it done, you have to ask some couple of more questions. The pain, how often does it occur? There are problems that customers have once in a month, once in a year. You don't want to build a solution for that too much, because the frequency of the problem occurring is so fine between, except it's a very big ticket item. It's not what you spending your time and money to build solution for. But if they tell you every time we use this service, we have this problem. And let's say they use this service 3 times a week. So they're having this problem 3 times a week. So the frequency of the occurrence is high. You need to know that. Number 3 is you have to ask them on this problem you are having, look into the pains, because people always go after the pains first. What are you currently doing about it now? And what does it cost you to do that? Number 1 reason why you ask what they are currently doing now, it tells you, it points you the direction of possible solutions. Number 1.
Yes.
So you can know the innovation framework that they are currently using. Maybe something you can take and improve on. And the cost is very important, because anything you're going to do, there must be a cost differential and the positive. We call it the value differential. What they are currently doing now, when you give them a new solution, there has to be a value differential. They must be able to extract more value than their current solution. If you cannot answer these 3 questions, you still need to dig into your value proposition canvas framework deeper until you can answer these questions.
And what if the customer, I mean, on the cost side, what if the customer is, a bit sensitive on sharing the cost? How do you normally go around this? Do you ask for a range? How do you solve? How do you get some kind of cost information from them, especially when it's sensitive and they're not willing to share? Do you ask for a range? What do you do?
You're right, Charles. You can ask for a range, but you can push them. What if I get you this service at X amount? Now, the amount that you give them in your own solutioning, your target must be 50% lower. So if I say, okay, what if I solve this problem for you at $10? Will you be interested? And they say, oh, for $10, we'll take it. Your target must be $5.
Mm.
And that's kind of because you have to assume that they are giving you their top estimate, so you have to discount it. The other thing you can do, in my experience, is it a service you can go and experience yourself? Let's use the parking express. You yourself drive to the district and try to park. And what is the cost difference? The cost that you experience in that whole trying to tell the service. Now, note, cost is not only money. So value cannot be only money. Cost could be speed, could be actually expense, could be quality of service, could be turnaround time. So you have to understand when I say cost, I'm not just speaking to money. I'm
Interesting.
speaking to everything that it takes those people to go through to enjoy that service.
Wow. That's really, really interesting. And one thing that I'm really getting from this, especially when I look at how we apply, one interesting thing for me is the whole essence of actually talking to the customers or talking to the stakeholders. Because a lot of times as innovators, we just sit back and maybe we are researching online or doing surveys or what have you. It's just super, super important that we actually leave our offices, leave the desk, and just go to the customer and talk to them and really ask them these critical questions. I'm coming. Let's go deeper even into the tool. What, from your experience, when is it good to use it, and how best? What tips do you have? What are your top 3 tips that you have for our audience to fully utilize the value proposition canvas?
Thank you, Charles. The value proposition canvas is most useful when you are trying to innovate in an unknown environment. When I mean unknown environment is you are doing like a startup. Nobody has done the idea the way you are doing it. There's not enough information to guide you. So
And it could
normally
also
when
be
you
it could also be a new idea inside an existing business, right?
yes, it could be a new idea inside an existing business. It could be the concept is new, but with some unknown. For
Yes.
example, now you could say transportation is tough in Lagos. What if I give people ability to have a flying vehicle? Would they take a flying shuttle? Yeah, transportation is a non-fixable problem, but flying shuttle, that's unknown.
That's unknown. That's true.
As you have
That's true.
introduced something new.
That's what we call it moonshots.
Yeah. When you have those kind of problems, you need a value proposition canvas. You can't just jump into it. You may think people will take the value and they will not. I once worked in a big company and we needed to launch a product. This product has 4 combinations of various discounts that the customer might use. We didn't test it, we just assumed the customer, we picked the 4. And when we did post-analysis, 80% of the customer only pick 1 option. Another 20% pick 2. That's all. Nobody picked, very few people pick 3, very few people pick 4. What we did not understand is a new paradigm for people to have 4 options. These are customers that are using to only 1 option on that platform. Giving them 4 was just running them rugged. So anytime you don't know enough about the customer, you don't know enough about the problem, they are unknown, you need to use a value proposition because it allows you to better understand the customer perspective and where it will matter to implement what you are trying to do. Number two is it allows you to ask the right kind of questions so that you can understand the customer better, understand their challenges better, understand where they will appreciate the value better, understand where they will pay for the value better. It forces you to ask deep and detailed questions that will push you to innovate right, because this is about innovation. And lastly, this is important. Interview enough people, talk to enough people. For retail products, I always advise at least 10 people. For B2B, at least 20 people. If you are doing a retail product and you really want to innovate and you just talk to your friends and family, it's the same problem like in Five Whys. You don't have enough people in that pool to give you varied feedback. Some of your friends, you say, oh, great idea, but they are just humoring you.
Yeah.
So you don't have to share that with them the full idea, but you need to confirm that this problem is as important to this number of people as possible. You need to confirm they experience it at the frequency you think they have experienced it. You need to confirm that for all of them, it's a pain that they don't want to live through again. And for all of them, they want to pay something for it. I need to confirm it with a good enough pool.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to invite our audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat room. I will be picking up the questions. We are coming towards the end of the program, and we can start taking questions. I have some follow-on questions for you, Adeyinka. We talk about customer, but what are situations where can the customers, in many cases, these are external customers, right? People that one way or the other, we are serving or we are trying to get our products to them. But in some cases, some of our customers, or in other words, stakeholders might be internal. So maybe somebody in finance, because innovation is not limited to only people that are in the digital products or marketing and sales department. It could be somebody in finance that is having an issue in finance, right? And wants to solve that issue. Like, can customers also be internal, and can these tools be applied to this kind of internal scenarios?
Thank you, Charles. As you know, I've worked more as an entrepreneur than an entrepreneur. I've done both, but if we're doing 100%, we say like 80% of my experience is innovating within an enterprise. That's what I've done across multiple industries. And believe you me, the same tools apply. I've gone to CFOs to solve problems using these tools. Some of my biggest wins did not involve writing any code. We just do this set of analysis and we come to a conclusion, oh, we need to do a behavioral change solution to fix this. And we discuss it, okay, let's implement this, and the problem goes away.
Interesting.
The trick is, it's a human tool. It's not it doesn't always lead you to technology. And that's almost what we don't realize. When you use this tool, especially, let's say, Five Whys, it may lead you to something like, we need to do more trainings. We need to change the way we recruit. We need to get more Gen Z into the room. It may be something like that. And for value proposition canvas, can tell you, there's no problem here to solve. Move.
Exactly.
But the problem is not large enough. So the parking scenario, I actually wanted to do it. I did all the prep work. And when we did this final analysis, where did we stop? This problem only affects people that go to VI and Lagos Island.
Wow.
And that tells us that in terms of that pain and gain, the frequency is not large enough.
Not large enough.
And remember, if this problem exists for everybody in Lagos State, everybody in Abuja, everybody in Oyo State, everybody in Sokoto State, then we have a real solution, a real problem that must be solved. But if you're only talking to Lagos, people that go to Lagos Island, in percentage of Nigerians, they are less than 1%.
Yeah.
So you need to use this tool to help you refine, because I've seen that kind of problem is what we call a micro niche problem. And when you solve a micro niche problem, you are not a startup. You are just an entrepreneur. You make some money, maybe enough to take care of your wife and maybe your family. You're not going to build a company. So if it's a startup you really want to do, you need to ask this question. So these tools, for me, I consider them to be life tools because you can use them as an entrepreneur. You can use them as an entrepreneur. You can even use them for your personal lives.
Mm.
The mechanic tells you, oh, Oga, we need to change your tire. You ask him why.
Why?
The leg is shaking. Sorry, why is the leg shaking? Oh, the wheel is not balanced. Why is the wheel not balanced? Oh, you have to check the air pressure in your tires. That comes back to you that you have not been checking the air pressure in your tires. Before you just change the front wheel, the problem will come back.
Yes, we have, it's very interesting you use this scenario because while you were talking, I was like, when you talked about the parking scenario and the fact that it could only apply to people that were like in VI and what have you, I was like, problem uncovering actually saves a lot of time and money because imagine if you didn't unlock that insight and you went on to start rolling out the solution. You rolled it out in Lagos, you rolled it in Ibadan, you even started saying, oh, you know what, let me even put it in Accra. And then you then realize that there's no market for this thing outside of the big cities. So you would have, lost a lot of money and you would have spent a lot of time. And because you are able to uncover that problem very early enough to understand that, look, this is not going to be big enough, you decide, it then prompted the decision to say, no, let's move on and let's drop this. Same with the mechanic, right? Imagine if he had told you the first thing, oh God, the carburetor is bad. And you now start doing, you now go and fix the carburetor, but it's not the carburetor that's the issue. It now comes with another problem and you now fix it. So by the time you get to the real problem, you've already spent money on the first, second, third, and fourth. And now you now get to the fifth one, which is then the actual problem that is creating all the other problems. So I think these are basic tools that can really be applied, not just in customer scenarios, but even in everyday real life situations. And talking about questions, we have Toby. Toby is asking if for value proposition canvas specifically, do you have any examples of the kind of questions you can ask to uncover the pains and the gains from
Thank you, Charles, and
customers?
thank you,
Yeah.
Toby. So normally, I was trained to say ask leading questions. Don't ask questions. Ask questions. You start with open wide question. Oh, have you ever been to Lagos Island? Say yes. How was the experience going there? Oh, it was okay. How was your parking experience? The person tells you bad. Don't just go by that bad. What do you mean by bad? Oh, it took me 30 minutes to park. The area boys harassed me. I had to pay them 2K. They broke my side mirror. My other mirror was stolen. Now you're getting into the point. You take note of that.
So it's almost like they don't from the beginning, they don't see exactly where you are going to with the question. So it's almost like a conversational journey, right?
Yes, it's conversational because if you go with yes or no questions, you are limiting the scope of your discovery. Don't ever go to that yes or no question, please.
Yeah.
Ask open-winded leading question and write down what everybody says.
Yes.
As you get there, you start seeing a common pain after like the first three. So you hammer in on the common pain and the common gain. Oh, but I got the best deals in Lagos Island. Believe you me, if you do this very well, you may say, okay, maybe I should actually do a e-commerce platform focusing on Lagos Island because there are many Lagos Island markets in Nigeria. There's still Alaba, there's still Onitsha market. People want deals. If I can get the deals to them and they don't have to drive down, maybe that's the business I should actually do.
Mm.
You get it? It might redirect you
Yeah.
entirely. But
Yeah.
you know the gain. The gain is good deals. Excuse me. But the
Yeah.
pain is going there, getting it done, you start asking, okay, what are the other things you experienced? The market was dirty, and then I got home tired. You note it. So you start documenting. Did everybody go to market? Did they have problem with transport? Did they have problem with parking? Did they have problem with walking around? Did they have problem with debt management? And if you see it consistent, you ask yourself, what can I do about this? Because it's that now you now have a list of all the, but you must get this feedback from enough people. You ask open-minded question, and you try to find out what people are going through while they are consuming that product, or where they are doing that thing that you will want to innovate about. The second thing you have to do is ask questions that dimension how often, like we spoke about, how often. So if somebody gives you all these kind of scenarios, okay, how often do you come to the market? I come once a year. You don't have a product there. The problem frequency is not that high. You get it? So you have questions about the experience, about the frequency, about the pain and the gain from the experience. So you ask that open, wide question. I think as you go along, you kind of discover it. You need to go through it actually. But if you have done it one or two times, you get better at it.
Yeah. And also from experience, asking open wide questions now even generate follow-on questions. Because you might have a list of questions on your notebook, right? But when you ask an open-ended question and the customer answers in a particular way, you then, using that why approach, but even though you're not asking the person why, it now triggers another follow-on question, and that follow-on question then triggers another follow-on question. So it's almost like a waterfall approach where you kind of like start very broad, open-ended statements and questions, and then it starts narrowing down as the conversation moves on. And I also think from experience, it's good to start with open-ended, because sometimes being too direct in some of these conversations, especially if you're talking with external customers, B2B customers, to be very precise, they can get pissed off. Like you can begin to, agitate them. So it's very important to have open-ended conversational pointers and questions that take you to the destination that you're looking for. All right, we're welcoming some more questions, and please feel free to drop any questions you may have in the chat room. We talked about number of people. Adeyinka said 20 if it's B2B, maybe 100 plus if you are looking at retailers. In Hyber, we just finished a project. We actually interviewed 1,000 retailers in seven cities. And we got so many insights. I think I talked about frequency. I think I talked about costing. These are things that in Hyber here we apply into some of the diagnostics and applied research type of work we do for our clients, really trying to discover where pain points are and where they are gain accelerators for the stakeholders. So really encourage you when doing the value proposition, canvas, when using it, reach out to as many respondents as possible to cover what you are trying to get. All right, so we're coming towards the end of the hour. I would love to wrap up with some key takeaways. I think these are some of the 3 things that you really mentioned that we really take note of. Do you want to expand on them a bit?
Thank you, Charles. Problems are like screensavers. There's more to them than what you are seeing. And that's the truth. Problems are like screensavers. There's more to them than what you are seeing. So they are not what they seem. Don't fall into that trap. I think a scenario that came to my mind is where you are doing marriage counseling and the husband said he doesn't talk to me often. Is that really the problem? Ask any counselor, the first problem they tell you is not the problem. There is more to it. So problems are like screensavers. What you are seeing is not the root cause. A screensaver has an application with a timer that is working. That's the root cause. But what you see is the screensaver. So problems like screensavers, what you see is not the cost most times. So don't fall into that trap of just looking at it, this is the screensaver is giving me a problem. Secondly, you have to be intentional about going after root causes. And that means you have to unlearn your bias. And I can tell you, many of us have biases. And this is probably the biggest mistake a lot of startups do, especially when I have to talk to developers, startup owned founders who have a bias in the technology problem. I'm going to build the app, customer will come. That's not really true. So you have to unlearn your biases and say, okay, let me do all this exercise, a 5 why, bad position canvas, and what is the data telling me? Because one thing to do all this and you interpret it the way you've always wanted to interpret it. You must be intentional to go after root causes and unlearn your biases while you are doing this exercise, because they will give you data. I was talking to a startup founder this week, and I told him, guy, your data is telling you something and you are doing something else. Follow what the data is telling you. You are more likely to be successful. And it's not that it's not a smart guy. It's just human. You have an idea in your head and your biases will always push you in that direction. So you must do something about it.
Yeah, I
And
always
lastly,
say, I always say on that note, I always say, don't be too romantic with your concepts. Don't be too romantic because sometimes it can really blindside us when we have a specific bias or a specific notion about a given situation, especially in corporate where there are legacy established principles and practices, and it blinds a lot of the stakeholders around where the opportunities really are. And as innovators, we need to unlearn and keep an open mind to go into new circumstances and situations. So what you're saying is really important. Being very intentional, being very objective, being very open to say, you know what, I want to get to the bottom of it. What really is the root cause here? Whatever I'm thinking, whatever is my assumption, I want to put it aside and see for myself. Let the environment tell me, let the customer tell me what is really going on here. And you were saying, thirdly, I think, before I step to, because I found what you're saying so interesting.
thank you, Charles. You need everybody's perspective. If you consider the perspective you are familiar with, you might be wrong. I once worked in a company and we were arguing about the name of the product. And I told them, take a walk down the hall, find a cleaner, and ask them the question. Because our perspective is educated. Many of us went to big schools, very educated people, but it's a product for the mass market. Find a cleaner and ask them question. I've sent people to the mall. I was working in a startup and I said, go to the mall. Anybody you meet, they'll give you 5 minutes of their time. Show them what you are trying to do. Ask their opinion. Come back to me with the feedback. It looks crazy at times, but in my experience, the more perspective you have, the better the probability of success. Yeah, it will also box you in and make you fearful of doing what you should do. But we are convinced if you would analyze the data properly, those perspectives will give you a deeper understanding of things that are happening, especially when you are using value proposition canvas. And now you can approach it to get the best value for the customer, for yourself.
Can diverse perspective also be a product of diverse teams or even diverse customers?
Yes, it can be. It can be. When I work in telecoms, the behavior of mass market is even from behavior of SMEs, it's even from behavior of HNI, and it's even from behavior of volume buyers. Volume buyers are people that used to do phone business. I think they're still around. You go to them, they give you a phone, you pay. Their behaviors are totally different. When we are analyzing their data, believe me, we cannot make the same assumption for all of them, even though it's the same product, airtime, telecom services, but their perspective. So when you have diverse customer range, it's a good way to get different perspective. So anytime you want to do something that is extremely well, and to confirm what you just said, within the mass market, there's even sub-domains. You have youth,
Yes.
which is a different perspective. And the youth segment, believe you me, behaves totally different from the normal mass market.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they just, if in those days, free midnight call was just coming, if you throw them free midnight call, they will just from there. They don't even mind if the rates are higher. Because it's just their youth, they have time. So they behave. So diverse customer ranges is also good for this. And diverse environment is also good. Picking. So for some kind of product, I'll tell the founder, make sure to talk to someone in Lagos, talk to someone in Port Harcourt, talk to someone in Abuja, if it's something that is more towards the elite or purely digital. And I always say, if you have the time, talk to someone in every state capital in Nigeria. If you do that, you have enough distribution that will make sure your perspective is aligned and you can get enough perspective to make a better decision.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people that if they look into their companies or if they look into their teams and everybody looks like them, there's a problem. Because if everybody is an engineer, or if everybody is a man, or if everybody is from a particular tribe or race, there is not enough diversity of perspectives within the room, and that can bring in biases as well. So it's very important for leaders and innovators to mix different people, mix different perspectives together when they are trying to solve problems, and that really is helpful. Now we've come to the end of the program. Any final words, Adeyinka, before we let our wonderful audience today go?
So, Charles, I just want to say it's a lovely thing to innovate. And I don't want people to be afraid of that innovation process. It is good to innovate. The world still have a lot of problems. Your country, wherever you are joining from, still have a lot of problems. And 80% of this problem needs new ideas, new solutions, new way of thinking, new way of working. And you have to be there to solve those problems. Also, innovators get the biggest payout. Please don't forget that. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you so much, Adeyinka, for your time. It's really been very, very insightful and engaging. I want to say a big thank you to our audience for joining us. I want to say that if you need help with customer discovery or you want to continue the conversations, please feel free to reach out to us. We want to really encourage our audience and our clients to go on there and solve big problems. The world needs innovation leaders like you, and you need innovation, you need problem solvers like us. Thank you everyone for joining this edition of our Insight series. We will be having another one next month. Please look out our social media channels. We will be posting the recording as well on channels. Thank you so much for your time, and do have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. God bless you, everyone. Have a good day. Thank you. Thanks so much, Adeyinka.
Thank you, Charles, for having me.
Bye, everyone.